So if you open R Studio, you should obtain a window like the one that is on the screen. And if you cannot, just raise your hand. Filippo will help you. So the way in which this user interface is set up is with 4 different panels. You have a console panel, a script editing panel, another panel in which you have 2 tabs, environment and history, and another panel that has 4 tabs. So with all this is just an interface that help you send command to R and receive the input, visualize the data set. So it's just what is called a graphical user interface to help using R. But the actual R software is working in the background. So with R Studio, you can work in 2 ways. You can either type your commands in the console window. So, for example, I run the command demo with 2 parentheses, and the output is shown as the list of possible demos. So if you write demo parentheses package equal package list old one, these are other example of commands that you can run. If you type licenses, it will list which kind of licenses we are using, and you will see that R is licensed with the GNU general public license. It's too small? Okay. I don't see any. Is it okay now? Is it okay? So this is the way we use R, by typing the commands. But there is also the possibility of writing your commands in a script file and then run the script file, which is the way you usually do it in SPSS. Okay? So to do this exercise, I'm using a script that I have prepared. I'm using now the File panel to browse to my computer. There is this 3 points. So I can go on the folder where I have the script, which I don't see it, so probably it's under data, other data. Oh no, yeah, sorry, I forgot, I moved it in a folder. In OneDrive. Here it is. So now I have a folder where all my files are saved. There's something that doesn't work well with my... Here I have a series of SPSS files with the Susanas data. And here I should have, here it is, a script file. So it's under, which I can open into my script window. So now I have the two windows I need, one on top of the other. So this is my script. It's very long because there are so many districts in the country. And there are some features that allow me to make it easy to close some of the blocks. And then you will see that it's just a series of commands. So you can do the same, but in order to run the exercise, you will need the data. And well, you can write the command that you see, and by writing them, then you will save your own script. But one thing that is for sure is that you will need the data. Now, I don't know if we can share all the data on these computers.
Well, they have their own.
Okay.
The BPS system.
Okay, so those who have access to the data can point the working directory to your preferred folder so that you don't interfere with other programs and commands. But I wonder how many people have data on that computer.
All from BPS. How many?
The problem is that check whether they have the same format.
These are just the...
Ada yang BPS yang belum ada datanya. Why?
Yang mana sih B543 itu?
Ini aja sama temannya. Seharusnya bawa datanya semua.
When we have
Oh, okay.
we have purchased the data from BPS, and the data are provided to us in a database, DBF format, and I save them. They are provided in a zipped file format. So we have received the core 15, which I think is March 15, right? RT. Core is the core module. and this is the household, and this is individual. And then we have the food consumption model part 1 and part 2, which I have exploded. Sorry. And transformed into SPSS file. And I have, so the core data and then the block 41, individual food items, block 41 by provinces, block 42 and block 43. Then, in order to import them into R in an easier way, I have saved them as portable SPSS file. So if you don't have it like that, you just need to open them, make sure that in SPSS the Unicode feature is off, open them in SPSS, I have the Italian version, so you will see some words in Italian. But then you export your data as a portable SPSS format. So each one that you open one at a time, this one is B41 2015 RT, and it contains 19 variables, DR, UROOT, R1, R2, R5, and so on. And I have added the labels that were not provided in the file, thanks to the assistance from Lina that gave me the translation. So if you do this, then you can do it on all files, and you need to have a series I put them into the SPSS folder. So a series of portable files. Those are not small files. You see, this is almost 1 gigabyte because these are the entire March 2015 data set. So I have a folder with all the files that I can then call from within R. So let me show you what are the results, and then maybe later you can try and run the same commands once you have exploded and transformed the file into portable. Prendi il microfono. Ah, sì. Probably.
So what we have done for the moment is just to transform the data we received into a format that can be read into R. This is the only thing we have done up to now. Now Carlo will show how the step-by-step procedure to derive the prevalence of undernourishment starting from the SUSENAS data. So now we will show the the format of the several datasets that will be loaded into R, and how we are going to process them in order to derive the parameters that Carlo described this morning.
It depends on how you receive the data from the BPS. They were transferred to us in a zipped, compressed format, because that makes it easy to transfer them through FTP. And so you need first to open the zipped file, and we found that they were DBF, because I'm not sure how many, you can choose which format to receive the data. And so I had to convert the DBF into SPSS file.
Actually, if you have SPSS, you can open PDF.
Yeah. And if you open from SPSS, then I suggest that you save them as portable SPSS file. That's why you see the extension POR instead of SAV.
Jadi waktu buka SPSS-nya itu, filenya kan udah dibuka nih. Itu di save as jadi portable SPSS. Seperti yang tadi.
So, because, I mean, we cannot disseminate the data set to everyone because of confidentiality issues. So, what I would suggest for the moment is to follow what Carlo is doing. Then, from those of you that have the data, we can discuss later how to load the data into R. You can ask me directly. What is important now is to follow. I don't know. Just few of you are familiar with R. So the important thing is now to understand more the conceptual steps, not really the software. Also because Carlo will show you the shape of the data set, so will not just be codes that you won't understand. So the point for the moment is still to understand the conceptual step. And if anything is not clear, or if you don't see or you're falling asleep, raise a hand. Yes.
The first file we convert into POR is the core data, the data about the individual household member.
We will load several data sets into R. We will load both the individual and the household level data set.
Only the food consumption or before?
And
You
the
will-
food.
you will
but
see.
You are slowly.
Yeah, don't be. don't
We
be
are not
too-
there yet.
Yeah.
For the moment, we just said we have data from EDS and we converted them in a format
Let me show you what we. It's very easy.
that
So,
is readable from to R.
I open SPSS. I load the. I don't have the English version. I'm sorry. But so, sorry, just confused with the where I put them. It's E, OneDrive, data, Indonesia. For example, I open the core 15 RT file. And I obtain, so this file contains 97 variables, and each file contains 285,000 observations, okay? Still reading it through because this is a very big file. once you have opened in SPSS, you can save as and choose the portable format. Portable SPSS format is a compression that makes the files smaller but preserves all the information, the names of the variable, the labels, the type of the variable, etc. So it's a good format to transport the data. And I have done this for all file contained in the package that have been sent to us. So that now I have a series of portable files. Unfortunately, this computer has too high resolution of the screen, so it's better if I show it from here. I have the block 43, block 42, block 41, GAP 2015, province 33 to 94, block 41, GAP 2015, district province 11 to 32. Block 41, 2015, RT, block 41, ART, SUM, block 41, ART, B431, block 41, 2015, ART, core 15, and core 15 individual. So it's a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different files. So I have all the information on the roster of household, the household member characteristics, and then the block that refers to food consumption. Both the individual food item, the food file, and the consumption, the household file. So now this is just to notice that I am in the script, and if I hit Control and Enter when I am in the script, the line gets copied from here and run into the console. So it's like running the script line by line. So the first line is just set the working directory to the folder where I keep the data. This is for convenience, so that when I call in the data, the computer finds the file there.
Carlo, sorry. If you don't see, you can move forward. For example, you can take my chair, the chair close to Lina. We can move 2 chairs. There's no point for the moment to follow on your laptop. So if you don't see it, it's better to move there.
Buat yang nggak punya datanya, mungkin bisa gabung sama temannya yang punya datanya. Jadi semua bisa ngikutin.
Yeah, the logistic of this is too long. This is too small.
Here there are 2 chairs.
Nggak kelihatan terlalu kecil.
Another one. Here there are just 4 chairs just here. As a prepare.
For those who doesn't have SPSS, is there any alternative to do the conversion?
No, but I think that BPS would provide the data in any format that you prefer, either ASCII format, database format, or SPSS format. So it's a matter of asking to receive the data in the proper format. This is not our data. We have purchased as FAO, purchase the data from BPS and is part of an agreement that we cannot disseminate the data further.
Ini pertanyaannya Bapak tentang analisanya bisa dilakukan di software apa saja atau datanya dalam bentuk apa saja?
Ya, tadi kan kita harus mengkonversi datanya supaya bisa terbaca lewat SPSS.
Oh bukan itu maksudnya. Jadi data yang ada di SPSS itu yang biasanya diberikan ke kalau orang beli data Susenas ya itu kan formatnya .dbf. Itu kan database ya, database format. Nah itu bisa dibuka di SPSS. Tapi karena ini Prof kalau mau mengerjakannya dalam R, jadi datanya itu di save dulu dan kita udah buka di SPSS supaya nanti bisa dikerjakan di R, jadi di save dulu dalam bentuk .por. Pada dasarnya kalau misalnya pun nggak pakai R pun juga
bisa
apa gitu.
CSV.
Misalnya apakah ada alternatif lain, misalnya kita pakai R tapi tidak punya SPSS, bisa nggak kita convert data DBF itu ke R?
Bisa baca DBF, import DBF to R.
Bisa.
So we do not need SPSS.
No. I mean, in R you can read
Okay.
most of the files, most of the format.
That's a good question, because the very first line I'm running now, you see library foreign. This command library, R can load additional features that are provided by the contributors to R that allow you to do several things. The foreign package is actually be written to read different format file. In fact, if I find my mouse first. Yeah. I can call an help feature that explains what the package does. It will open in a help window, and the foreign package reads data stored by Minitab, SAS, SPSS, Stata, Systat, Wika, database, everything you want. So you have a series of commands: read ARF, read DBF, read DTA, read EPINFO, read. So depending on what you have, you can read the data into R. So no problem, R will read virtually every format.
Help package.
Then I have another few set of packages that may or may not be needed. One of these packages, the MEMISC package, allow me to work with SPSS file in a very efficient way, so that even if I have a computer with a little memory, I can still use very large data files. This is a set of tools to manage survey data, and has a series of commands like the one I'm using immediately below, this one, SPSS portable file, that allows to import just the data definition, look at what do I have, and allow me to select only the variable that I need. Because otherwise, if I read the entire data set, may be too big, the notebook computer doesn't have enough memory and it will stuck. And this is a problem, for example, that with other software like Excel sometimes happen that if you try to do analysis using Excel with very large file, you need a lot of RAM memory and not every computer can do it. So for people who work with statistical survey data, the package foreign and the package MEMISC are very useful. Just to give you an idea of how the community that works in R work is that everyone that can write a script, a set of procedures, can make them available to everyone in the world as a package. For example, FAO Statistics, my team, Filippo, Sara, and others working with us, have written a package that is called RM weights. That is the set of routines that are necessary to estimate the rush model for the food insecurity experience scale. So everyone in the world already now has access to the routine that are needed to analyze the FIS data. The only thing that they need to do is install R, then go under Packages, choose Install, and then look for rm.weight. So now he's saying that you have already installed this package, so why do you want to install it again? For those of you who don't have it, it will start an installation procedure. From that moment on, every time you need it, you can just load the package with library RM weights, and you will have all the command available for you. So now in this session, tomorrow we will use that one, but in this session today, we don't need it. Today we need foreign and MEMISC, and possibly data table. Data table is just a set of utility that allow to work in a more simple way when you need to create tables. So every time I load, I have some messages, but unless you have an error, everything is okay, and you can work. So let's start.
Oke, ini baru mau mulai ya. Let's start. We just want to start.
The first thing I read in the core 15RT portable file. Notice the syntax of this command. I am defining a temporary object. Just call it TMP for convenience. You can call it whatever you want. And I'm loading the file core 15RT into, just the description of the file into the system. So now I have in my memory, if I look at the tab called environment, it tells me what do I have. So I have a TMP object, which is a class of portable importer file that I can use in various ways. One is, for example, calling for a description. And So descriptions will just list all the variables I have available in that file and the label. But the actual data have not been loaded into memory. So now I can select just a subset of the variable that I need, and I am selecting only this one. The province, the district or municipality, the classification of the village, which I learned is urban or rural, the number of sample code, this is the translation that I have been provided, and the sequence number of household. Then I also have a sequence number of household member. Then somebody remember what SCABU is? It's the name of the district, so it's reported also as the name, so I actually don't need it. And then FWT Tahu, if I don't remember, that is the weight. I think this is the expansion factor of the household. So it's the number of households that are represented by each case in the sample. So with this command, I am actually now loading the variables into a data table that I call HH data table. Data table is the format of the R object that I use then for analysis. So if I run this command, I can either highlight, notice that the command can be written on more than one line. It doesn't matter. If I want to run the entire command, I highlight and then press Control Enter. Now, R has been working for a while, and in my environment, I have the HH, stands for households, data table, which is made of 285,908 observations of 8 variables. If I click on it, it will show it to me. So now the data are there. Okay?
Just one, I don't know. Someone is not easy to understand this way of, let's say, coding. Because, for example, I don't know SPSS, but in Stata you can work with one object per time. This means that you load your data set and you see your table. And then if you want to merge this table with another one, you call it, but you still have just one object, your data set.
Yes, that.
R allows you to manage more objects at the same time. So now, for example, we loaded the household data set. Later on, Carlo will load the individual data set. And these two data sets will be in the same workflow. And this is a big advantage of R.
So let's go next. Because I don't like the labels, sorry, the name of the variables. I am changing them. So I want to change the name of the variable R101 with the text province, R12 with district, rural. This is just for convenience. It's not necessary, but it's only for convenience. And I have the rename command that automatically does it for, you can use only one or two. You don't need to rename all the variables. There is a similar command, it's called recode, that allow you to recode, like if you want to create a group, all ages between 0 and 5 make a single group, and so on, you can use the recode. So I just run, notice one thing, when I put this parenthesis, this curly bracket here, I have the possibility of compacting everything is in the parentheses, so it doesn't show. This is very convenient because the long command that give the name to the district, which is actually not necessary because the Kabu variable already have it, but I spend a lot of time typing this before realizing. I can just squeeze 500 lines and not see them. Similar here, I had the names of the provinces, and I squeeze it not to see. One thing that can be useful is that if in a script you have just some comments or some line that you don't want to run, you can comment them by putting the hash symbol as the first, actually everything that comes after an hash symbol will be a comment. So, and you can do easily by Control, Shift, and C, comment and uncomment line. So now I am renaming some of the variables. So if I look at the data now, instead of R11, 12, 13, I have the names that I gave them. Then, this is the very first time in which I do an actual elaboration processing. I'm creating a new variable. I'm calling household ID by joining, pasting together the province, district, household sample, and household code. So I'm using the command past For example, if I say name equal past Carlo Cafiero with the space as separation, what R does is creating a string that concatenates, joins all the strings that I have here with a separation. So this is how the paste command works. I can create a new string by putting together several strings. I'm using it to create a unique identifier per each household that I can use across data sets to do the merging. This is what Filippo said. If I have the household file and the food file, and I want to match households, I need to have a unique identifier, something that allow me to select all the food consumption lines that belong to the same household. Sorry. So I need to create a unique identifier, a unique record identifier, and this way I'm creating the household identifier. Now in our analysis, when we do the prevalence of undernourishment, at the end we will have one value of per capita calorie consumption per household. So our real unit of observation is the household. Even though we might want to compute the mean using the individual weights, because the household size may be different. So in calculating the average consumption per capita, you have to take into consideration that different households have different sizes. But the elementary observation that we will use is the per capita calorie consumption, which is one number per household. That's why the household is the unique identifier here. And actually I discovered by verifying that the individual weight that is provided by BPS is nothing but the product of the household weight times the household size. So I checked, and the individual weight is equal to the product of household size times household weight. Okay? So if now run this command, I am transforming the data table. I'm transforming the data table HH by adding one additional variable. So at the moment, HH contains province, district, urban, rural, sample number, household size, district, city, and household weight. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 variables. If I run this command, an additional variable will be created with the label household ID, and it will contain the result of the operation of putting together the content of province, district, and sample, and NHH. So let me run it. And if I now look at HH, it now contains 9 variables. So in addition to household weight, I have also this household ID, which is a string made of the province, the district, etc., the sample, province, district, urban, rural, sample. No, urban, rural, I don't have it. I don't need it. Okay? And this is a unique label that identifies each household.
Is it more or less clear what we are doing, apart from the coding that you don't know, apart from the language that of course you don't know? The steps, these are steps that you could do with any language. Now we are importing a data set, reshaping it, subsetting it, renaming the variables, creating new variables. This is what we are doing.
So in the next line, I am creating the individual weight, which is not provided with this core 15 file, by simply multiplying the household weight by the household size. Now, I have just a warning that says, look, in reality, you are using a variable that is not properly numeric. In that case, it would also be useful to make it numeric first and then multiply, but don't worry, this is what R is telling me. I did it for you. So just a note. But now, as before, I have another variable, which is the individual weight. And this is just the product of the household weight times the household size. So if you do 3 times 33.34, you have 100, and so on. So this will be the number of individuals that are represented by each household. Okay? I skip this. This would be just, or actually let's not skip it because it might be useful. So now instead of having the numeric labels, I'm actually putting it the string that correspond to the name of the provinces. The reason I'm doing this is because then if I create a table, instead of having 1, 11, 12, 13, 14, I have actual names. And therefore, it's much easier to read them. So now working within the household data table, I am recoding the field, the variable called province. Now, province contains number. I have used the numbers to create the household ID. I no longer need the numbers. I need the names of the province. So I run this entire command. And if I look at HHDT now, you notice that the field, the variable province, contains the name and not the number anymore. So the code is still here, but now I have the name. So, for example, if I want to know how many observations are in each province, I simply use the command table. The command table in R creates a table by counting cases by each different modality of a certain variable. So I need to choose the variable, and to choose a variable in a data frame, I simply write the name of the data frame and then the $sign. $sign is like a selector. Allow me to select one object from a structure that contains more objects. So my HH data table is an object that contains 11, is a structure that contains 11 objects. I want to select one, province. So I can type HHDT $province. And this will only operates on that variable. And if I run this command, table HHDT province, it tells me that in Aceh, I don't know how to, Aceh, 11,165. Bali, 5,639. Banten, 6,400. So you can check that this corresponds to the structure of the Susunas. So in this data set, the composition of the sample is by province like this. And I suspect that Utara Sumatra, which is? North Sumatra is a rather large province in terms of population because Susunas is designed to be representative of the national population. So provinces with more people should have more households being selected. So Timur, Java, and East Java and West Java are probably, Central Java and West Java are probably the most populous one. Okay? So now, if next time I want to have this command automatically run, I add it to my script so that I save it and next time I will do it. Okay, let me skip the name of the districts. If you are interested in seeing the number of households in each district, we could do it. So now this will be a very, very long list in which you see that essentially the primary sampling unit in this survey is either an area within a city or a district, and there is about from 200 to 1,000 households sampled in each unit. So now, for example, if we were to do an analysis at district level, we know that we would count only on about 500 observations. And so 500 observations may be too small, too little, to do some inference at district level. This was a question that came up yesterday by a colleague asking, if we want to be representative at district level, how much should we increase the sample size? That depends on you want to be representative of what? Maybe if the data is of sufficient quality to estimate the average food consumption per household, having 500 households may be sufficient. But certainly, if you want to estimate the distribution of food consumption across households, 500 households are not too many.
Jadi masih melihat berapa sampelnya dulu berarti.
The same I'm doing now, changing the codification of rural and urban. I think 1 is for urban and 2 is for rural. I didn't know, but then I checked. I counted, no, I counted the number of observation. Then I went on the website on Wikipedia, on the Indonesian population, and I checked which one is closer to the urban and which one is closer to the rural. And so I sort of verified also, triangulated the evidence from with whoever wrote the Wikipedia page on Indonesia population. And just to check, in this sample there are 122,000 urban households and 163,000 rural households. Makes sense.
Ini masih mengecek number of observation ya, belum.
The sum should be the total 285,908. Okay? So this is the kind of thing that I did using the core RT file. Actually, it turns out I don't need, because all the information that I need is also in the core 15. Individual member of the household.
So we don't need all the
Well, it's interesting, right? And it's a good way of learning. So now I could do a second batch of analysis. So I still keep the HH data table, but now I overwrite this temporary thing by loading the content of the core 2015 individual data. Now, I developed this code while I was exploring the data set, so I was learning what is inside. So, as we did before, I'm loading the definition of the file into this temporary structure. And now I could run a description of this to see what's inside. And remember that I couldn't understand what catatan stands for.
Note,
Like a remark. And so this is what it's in the individual file. I noticed that there is a lot of information on sexual health and reproduction. So I understand that this March 2015 survey was an opportunity to run a module on women reproduction. I don't know.
That's in the core module.
Yeah, it's always, so it's asked every 6 months. So there will be a lot of things that are of extreme interest, but not for me analyzing the food consumption. So I don't need all the province, all the variables. I just subset by selecting a few of them. The province, the district, the sample, and the household that are needed to create the household ID. And then from this file, I'm just taking gender and age. So now I am creating a roster data table that contains one observation per each individual that is member of households that have been surveyed. I do the same renaming to be consistent with before, and I am creating the same household identification that is allow me to merge the two data sets, the household data set and the individual data set, making sure that I can match all individuals that belong to the same household, if and when I need it. So now, if I go in my global environment, I notice that I have two data tables. The household data table, which is made of 285, 900, whatever, observation with 10 variables, the original 8 plus the 2 I created, and the roster data table, which has only 7 variables, which is 5 to identify the household and the member, and then the gender and age of the member. So the first person is 55 male, 55-year-old, and so on. Okay? Same here, I want to give the actual names to the provinces now that I have created the individual household ID. I want to change the code of the gender variable from 1 and 2 to female and male. And this is also, I need to check that 1 is for female and 2 for male. But I think I got it right, because then I saw the age pyramid and I mixed. One male, two female, so I got it wrong? Okay. Let's check. So this may be a source of an error in my analysis, because I have so there are more female than male in Indonesia, as in most countries of the world, actually. So eventually we will end up with a world dominated by women. Okay? Now, this is just because I want to make sure that the variable gender and the variable province are treated as characters and not as factors. I'm forcing them. So it is very little relevant in the sense that you will see no difference, but it's only to make sure that these are treated as string and not as factors. Then I want to define what is the key, the primary key for the roster, because now is the time, as Filippo taught me, to merge the two data sets. So I am merging roster data set with the household data set using household ID as the key and bringing the household sites, the urban rural, the district city, and the individual weight from the household file. And so let me fix the error I did before, and then we'll redo it. So now I cannot do this because gender has been already recoded. So either I start from scratch and I run everything again and then I recode, or I should do this wouldn't work. Okay. Or I should run the code like this, because now gender is already coded in a certain way. But I prefer to keep it like this and run it again. Not from when I loaded the file, you see? Because in this way I save the script for the future and it works. Notice that I can highlight a number of lines and run all of them at once with Control Enter. Now it's loading the file. When you see this symbol, it means that it's working. Working again because now it's subsetting. Creating the household ID. Creating the roster, changing the name, coding, and now we should check that there are actually in this, if you are correct, in this data set, there are more male than female. So, can you please confirm, because my assumption was that one is female because I would expect more women than men in the sample. So the question is, what is the proper codification of the gender variable? Of the variable that is called R405. I think I do have a data The file is, sorry, I'll close this. The file is core15int, and we need to, what is the proper coding of the gender variable? So 1 is male and 2 is female. And this sample has collected data on households that contain more male than female, which means that it's probably, this is one of the very few things that it's easy to check the representativeness of the sample. Are you sure that there are more male than female in Indonesia? If not, but if not, means that the sample design is not able to reproduce the gender ratio in the country, which would be one of the easiest things to reproduce. And it's one of the first things to check. Oh, maybe you know what? This is not taking into consideration sampling weights. So maybe you have an unbalanced weighting, so we should recode Filippo. Now I want to do the sum of the individual weight by gender. How do you run? Come.
101.
I can use the data table. Voglio la somma.
Sì. Ah, vabbè, ok. Quindi fai sum della variabile e poi virgola by genere.
Uguale. Così.
Tapi benar ya jumlahnya segitu, memang lebih banyak pria dibanding wanita.
Why I is not? Ah, perché lo devo fare dopo che ho fatto il merge, non ce l'ho ancora.
Ini kita baru ngecek number observation ya, kita belum menganalisa apapun. Sama ya, jumlahnya sama. Dia cuma mau ngecek apakah kita punya persepsi yang sama tentang datanya.
Okay, by using the individual weight, this data set still predicts more male than female in Indonesia. No, but this is not right. No, because I need to do the opposite.
578.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Doesn't, right?
Now it doesn't work because now I have one record, so there are duplicated records for each individual. So it's multiplying. Cannot do it on the merged file.
And the core ID for 15 in the individual.
According to the United Nations Population Division, males are more than
So it's
Okay. So I take it off. It's a male-dominated country. Which means that we probably, let me count. An easy count.
well, in here, no, probably.
Oh, here we are pretty much balanced.
Pay attention with probably.
Okay, so let's trust, and I had made a wrong assumption in my analysis, so we need to consider that. Because I was on vacation, I was on a beach, and I didn't want to Now, we have in this high roster data table, which will contain one record per each individual, recording which household they belong to, from which province, from which district, what the household size, whether it's rural, urban. Also the sex and age of each individual. And I now can compute a series of parameters that refer to the energy requirement in the country. As I said, I need additional information that come from, let me see if I am connected on the internet. If I Google human energy requirement, if I Google human energy requirements, unfortunately, I lost the
Connection. Maybe you can connect.
but there may be something wrong in using. If you Google human energy requirements, you will see that one of the first link is the FAO publication on human energy requirements that contains all the Okay, now I'm connected, yes. Human energy requirement,
Yeah, FAO publication.
the very first one, and there is also the PDF available, so you can download the document. It's a book that is the product of a joint consultation between FAO, WHO, and the UNU, the United Nations University, that in October 2001 convened in Rome to give advice on all issues related to food, energy, and nutrient requirement, and to formulate recommendations for action. So this book gives a set of principles and definition on how to compile human energy requirement of infants, children and adolescents, adults, and how to take into consideration the special allowance for pregnancy, lactation, and in all these publications, you find that there are a number of equations that are used to estimate basic metabolic rate, which is the amount of energy that you need for the body at rest. Then, as we briefly mentioned yesterday, there are physical activity level coefficients that are used to multiply the basic metabolic rate in order to have the per kilogram of body mass energy requirement. Okay? So I encourage you to, maybe if there is an interest, Lina, we can have a few actual physical copy of the publication shipped to FAO Indonesia, because they will come also with a software, a CD, even though it's a 2004, so it's a rather old software that I'm not sure whether it will run on the most recent, I will check, on the most recent version of Windows. But it's a software that implements the formulas to compute energy requirement, which are the same formulas that Filippo has. Filippo has coded into a series of functions in R. So at the very beginning of this script, I also have to, actually, let's put it in the right order. And these functions are needed to compute the distribution of energy requirement and then to calculate what is the coefficient of variation in a population that is made of the composition by sex and age of this data set, so that we can estimate what is the variability in food consumption that we would expect if everyone was perfectly nourished in Indonesia.
In R, you load set of functions. And usually these set of functions are organized according to certain purposes. So for example, so here, for example, this package foreign is to import all the functions that you need to load files from other softwares. So for example, in this case, if you have the files of the SPSS file, this package will provide you with the functions you need to import the data. This is just an example. So, the command library means just load the function. But you need to have the function in your software. So you need to install the packages just the first time you use R. Not every time you open R, you need to reinstall the packages. But it's just like in Windows, when you ask when you need to install an update or a plugin, it's the same thing. You just need to do once. So here, this is the command to load the package, but you also have the command to install the package that is actually install.packages. This is just a clarification. So the first time you open R, you need to install the package foreign, and then you load the package foreign. You install just once, you load the package every time you open R. But this will be in the script. and you will save the script. So next time you just need to Control Enter, and you will load everything. This was just the first clarification. Any doubts on this? Second clarification. Second clarification regarding the data sets. We received the data set in a certain format. So what Carlo loaded here, this file contains a set of variables. Maybe you have files of Susenas with a different structure. The important thing is not the structure of the file. The important thing is that you have in the files these variables. If your file is called Filippo, maybe Filippo Inzaghi, it's fine. The important thing is that within this data set, you have these variables. So just because I was looking at her data set, she has a data set in a different format with different variables. This simply because we received the data set in a certain format, but is it possible that it's possible that you have the data sets in different formats? So later, if you want, we can stay. We can look together at the format you have, and if you have the data, we can load together the files into R.
Actually, I think this is a good idea. I want to make sure that you become able to do the analysis. So before I start the presentation, I and Filippo will have a round of table and help each of you that has data. What we need now is the individual member data file. So the roster of the data with one record per each member of the household with gender and age, the unique household identifier, and the province and district of the household. Okay? That's the only thing we need. Then we will need another file with the median height, which is not included in Susenas, for which we have a file that is obtained from the RAND survey. But some of you have a different data file. The only thing that we need to do is to create a very simple table. I will show you now what is the format of this table, in which in each category you have the median height expressed in centimeters. That's it. Then it would be interesting to see whether or not using different file on the stature, on the height of people, make any difference in the estimated DR and prevalence of undernourishment.
The problem is that maybe will take too much to load all the data. So maybe it's better, if you are interested, I would suggest to look into your...
What do you mean load all the data?
To see what kind of data they have.
No, that's fine. You have the data file on your computer. So,
yeah, but probably they have different formats with different variables.
So we will help just loading it into R using
Yeah, but this would take some time for him to... So
who
maybe...
has a data set of individual roster on your computer? Can you raise your hand?
Yang individual core individual,
Yeah.
core individual.
And this is obtained directly.
Raise core individual. Jangan malu-malu angkat tangannya, mau dihitung dulu.
Okay, so
Punya apa sih?
Sudah.
Oh iya.
So take a break and we'll resume when you're ready.